I'm here with Brian and Peri Zahnd, and just wanted to ask you guys over the last month or so, what's been on your heart and mind, things you've thought about, maybe conversations, things you've read, prayed, whatever. But just like to hear that.
You know, um, I've just stayed so busy.
Mm,
It isn't like I've had extra time on my hand at all. Uh, and we're just out of Holy Week and Easter week, where I was doing one or two live services a day, every day.
wow.
So I'm just really immersed in the whole Paschal story,
Yeah.
but it has a different kind of resonance at this particular time. A time of what I would describe as profound disruption,
Mm,
which we are not used to having. A part of the arrogance of empire is that disruption is what we do, not what happens to us.
yeah. Yeah.
And suddenly, we found that our arrogance is misplaced, our hubris is not real, that our lives can be disrupted.
Mm,
Um, so I think that's a new phenomenon for a lot of Americans, and it may give space for some rethinking. But you know, you have to be willing to rethink, and sometimes we're not.
let's not hold
Um,
your breath on that one.
the thing that discourages me is the thing that I don't like, the thing that I find most frustrating, and it really hasn't quite happened yet in our city, and I hope it doesn't. But the idea is, okay, eventually we start opening up. Churches will be toward the end of that because that's a large gathering.
Right.
What I don't want to have, I want that to be based on wisdom and prudence, information, science, public leaders who seek the common good, not for it to be a political statement
Mm,
of red, blue, elephant, donkey allegiance. But I'm afraid that in our politicized, nation, everything is political. I
yeah.
mean, everything ends up a political statement, and I don't want that to happen, but I'm afraid it might. Now, Word of Life will just try to stay above that, but I wish that wasn't the case
Mhm. Mhm.
because a virus doesn't care
Right. Yeah.
if
Yeah.
you're Republican or Democrat or
Mhm.
not.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a crazy time. Um, it took a while to wrap my head around the shock that such a thing could happen.
Mm,
In some ways, some days I'm still wrapping my head around it, but it's a big disruption. It's a big, like a stop, like we are forced to stop. We are
mhm.
forced to just quit everything, get quiet, hopefully. And I can't help but think that there are some incredible invitations from God to rethink our lives, to rethink our world, to think how we relate to one another. And I'm praying that there will be a global recalibration. Those have been my words, a global recalibration, that we would start loving one another. It seems impossible. We are so far from that, but I can't help but long for it.
Yeah, and I do too. I think maybe baby steps. I mean, it seems to me people, because of this globally, have sensed an awareness of connection in the human race, maybe more than they
Yes,
did
Right.
before.
yes, yes.
That's a baby step toward it. I'm trying to look at it positively.
Right, it is a baby step, but what I'm hoping is that when we're released to resume our normal lives, that we won't just resume our normal
Yeah,
lives.
yeah, that it goes
Um,
back to normal.
I also have this sense that we don't know what the end of it looks like, and I think that we could see this happening over and over. I mean, maybe as much as the next couple of years, this might be a new normal.
Hmm.
And so maybe we'll be forced to rethink. If we can't do it on our own, then maybe we'll be forced to.
Yeah. You guys are speaking to like how, number one, how does God view crisis? and then how do we view crisis? Because that's kind of what we're in for a lot of people. I mean, to be honest, I come from somewhat of a privileged perspective. This hasn't created a crisis for me as it has for millions of others.
Exactly. And I
And
keep reminding myself of that. I think I'm suffering, but I'm not suffering
yeah,
like some
yeah,
other people are suffering.
and we do, and that informs, I think, our prayers and what we do in our actions toward people that are suffering. And but so as you guys think about this, and as you've thought about this, and I know you have, and I love your words, Peri. There, a global recalibration. I think that's a
Mhm.
great way to put it. Um, it seems like we have been gifted an opportunity.
Yes.
What we're going to do with it, I don't know. But you guys are voices, I think, strong voices to encourage people of some really good things to do with it.
Yeah, I hope so.
I mean, I see my vocation as a preacher
Mhm.
very significant right now. I mean, I'm leaning into that a little more than some of the other things I do. I mean, I'm a writer. I'm trying to write. I'm a traveling speaker. That's not happening at all right now. All that's canceled. But to preach as a pastor, and sometimes people say, Zahnd, he's got that prophetic edge. Well, here's what I'll say about the prophets. They afflict the people of God when they're comfortable, but when the people of God are afflicted, they come with words of comfort. You see that very clearly in Isaiah,
So true.
where you have the time leading up to this great crisis, that is the destruction of Jerusalem and the exile. Leading up to it, Isaiah of Jerusalem is primarily a voice of affliction. But once this thing has befallen them, and now they're living in exile, you have Isaiah, a new Isaiah arises in the exile, and it begins in chapter 40, and it opens with comfort ye my people. And so I've seen the importance of each Sunday having a strong word of the presence of Jesus, words of comfort, words of faith, and I have to say, I think our team here at Word of Life has done a tremendous job, just on both pastoral side and also in the technological side. I feel like we've, in one sense, really kept our church together and cared for well, even though we have to do it like this. The one thing I've cautioned people, and I wrote a piece on this, you can find it on my blog, don't let a pandemic turn you into a Gnostic. This is gathering like this, virtually online, is not the future of the church.
Yeah.
This is an emergency measure
Yes.
brought on by a
Yes.
global pandemic, but it's not the future of the church. The future of the church is what it's always been, to gather around the table of the Lord together as humans, not as Gnostic, whatever.
Yeah.
Virtual.
I mean, yeah.
So we went for a walk last night on our parkway system. It's a beautiful place to walk. And we ran into 2 church members. And it was just so wonderful to see them in person. And we may or may not have hugged.
Well, Peri,
no
don't say
no
that.
reports coming from that.
Not of our initiative, but sometimes our church members get carried away.
It was just so wonderful to see people in the flesh, incarnate.
Yeah.
And I mean, we love a God who believed in being incarnational, and so that's what life is about.
I think it'll be fascinating to see which way we take this. Like, before we saw trends of younger people becoming more and more kind of engrossed in the whole social network.
Yeah.
That way of communicating and calling it relationship, and trying to speak to that, saying, no, this is not a substitute. Well, with this happening, I wonder how it's creating a longing for people for relationship, for the face-to-face,
Right.
flesh on flesh.
I hope so.
But then others looking at this saying, oh, we can substitute. Look at how good we're getting, right? Which would be a horror.
Yeah, I mean, I see that as a move away from something less than human.
Yeah.
And to put it in theological terms, almost very strongly, it's an insult to the incarnation.
Yeah. Yep.
The word did not become computer code.
Yeah.
The word became flesh.
But we are grateful we have this way to
Sure.
be in touch.
But
with
it's what you do in an emergency.
It is an emergency.
It's not an improvement. It's not the wave of the future. It's what we do in an emergency.
Yeah. It's not to replace, for sure.
And, in one sense, Word of Life, in one sense, isn't doing anything different. I mean, we've always streamed our services. We've always done that. It's just that now that's the only way you can participate.
Yeah. I saw your picture of what your view was.
Yeah.
It's
actually kind of depressing. I don't let that seep through. While I'm actually preaching, it's not that different for me because I'm just so locked in on the message. I'm just staring at this camera. Where it really comes and hits you is when God bless you, go in peace. The camera goes off and there's, like 4 of us sitting in there. Just dead silent. It's this silence that's not a holy silence. It's just a dull nothingness.
Yeah. Reverberations in the cavern. So awesome, you guys. Thank you so much for sharing those thoughts. So I'm going to ask you a few questions, and to let people know these aren't scripted. You guys don't know what I'm asking, and just looking for one-word answers as best you can. Okay. And you guys choose who wants to go first. So
we'll just take turns.
Okay. Social distancing or spatial distancing?
Mm-hmm. Physical distancing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I say. Physical distancing.
Yeah. Okay. Word for it. Word that comes to mind when you think about it.
Oh, emergency.
Okay.
Lonely.
Okay.
I didn't. Okay, I understand the question. I've got it.
Okay. Got it. Favorite thing you've done since being sheltered in the isolation that we can repeat?
Preach.
Okay.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Favorite thing I've done? Well, I've done some cleaning that I didn't enjoy it, but it makes me
One
really
word,
happy
Peri.
now.
One word.
That's great. Cleaning. Okay. I don't know if cleaning would ever be my favorite thing, but
No, it's the feeling you get afterwards.
No. I get it. COVID-19.
Bastard. That first thing that came to my mind.
Yep.
I just won't say anything.
Okay. I actually said scoundrel.
Yeah.
Funny how we personalize it. I know you guys don't get bored, and Brian, you've already said that you're still pretty busy, but if you were to get bored, what would be your go-to activity if you have some extra time during this time?
Music.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't get bored very often, but I need a lot of variety in what I do. So I've been enjoying yard work.
Okay. Yard work. I would imagine you guys are reading. What are you currently? Give me one thing you're currently reading.
Love in the Time of Cholera.
Okay. By
Gabriel Garcia Marquez.
Okay. Thanks. Peri?
I'm reading a stack of books, a little bit out of every one, but the one that I'm most excited about is I finally got to The Patient Ferment of the Early Church.
Okay.
By Ellen Kreider.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Great. Thank you. Okay. Remember, this is one word. That's for you, Brian. Okay. The way our government is handling this.
Disaster.
I'm going to give it some thought. Failure.
Okay. All right. On a more positive note, favorite snack?
Mm,
It seems like
snack.
I'm tempted to eat a lot now that I'm home a
I
lot.
know. Cheese.
Jeez. Same?
Cookies.
Cookies? Okay. Right on. Sugar. Any projects that you're working on?
I hope to make more project in writing.
Okay.
I have a book, maybe a third or a quarter of the way through, entitled "What Can We Do When Everything Is on Fire?"
Awesome. Great title.
My goodness,
Hair is on fire.
I've got yard projects. I've got knitting projects. I've got cooking projects. I'm new recipes, trying
Ooh.
new things,
Okay.
because we're tired of the same old thing for the past 4 or 5 weeks.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Least favorite thing about physical distancing?
No church.
I miss people.
All right. Last question. And this one you can do more than a word. Maybe a word of advice or wisdom or just thought, something maybe is encouraging you during this time, whatever, just a final word or thought.
Let Perry go first.
That we serve a God of resurrection,
Mm.
and there will be resurrection. We just have to hold on for it. Sometimes Saturday is a long, long time.
I think I would say learn how to cultivate patience by learning how to practice the presence of God, to sit with Jesus, to not feel like you have to try to change something that you can't change. Say, how would you learn? I would just say, if this time is giving you more time, and this isn't the case for everyone,
Right.
but if the experience with coronavirus has given you more time, you're not going to work or whatever, spend more slow time in prayer, maybe reading the Gospels and just trying to be in the story, and reading slowly and praying slowly, praying the Psalms slow. Go ahead, if you have more time, slow down and let the presence of God come into that slowness. That's what I would say.
It's good.
Awesome.
I've been doing the very same thing.
Very good.
Living slow and not feeling compelled to speed up.
No, that's awesome. Thanks, you guys. Thanks so much for being with us and sharing the thoughts. It's great to see you.
Thank you. Hopefully we'll see you in person out in Oregon or somewhere
Oh, yeah.
in the near future.
Yep.